Hi, welcome to this episode of Teaching Academia. Today we're going to be talking about pop-up quests, and I'm going to talk about, I use them with Twitter, but you can use them any number of ways, but we're going to talk about what a pop-up quest is and how and why do you want to use them, and I'm going to show some examples, share some of my examples with you. So the first thing is what is a pop-up quest? So I got this idea because I find that in my teaching, as I'm going through the semester, I come up with some really great ideas for experiences that students could engage in, but they're not in the syllabus. And I felt so contractually bound to the syllabus, right? I can't all of a sudden just start changing assignments and throwing out assignments and putting in new assignments. That's just going to create some chaos. So I thought, what if we turn this into a pop-up experience, okay? So in some cases, these sort of experiences could be 100% spontaneous. Something happens in class, it inspires you about, a really great activity or assignment that you want students to do, but it's not required, okay, because it's a pop-up, all right? So it might be 100% spontaneous in response to the moment. Now, after I had done this for a semester, I realized that I could also plan some of these out in advance. So what I ended up doing was I tell students, we're going to have pop-up quests. It's going to be a way for you to earn extra points. I don't know what those points are going to be because I don't always know what all the quests are going to look like, and I don't know how many points you can earn. It's really kind of a form of extra credit, but sometimes I do have some things planned out in advance that I want students to do or give them the opportunity to do, and I fold that into pop-up quests, and I'll share some of that in a minute. I do this using Twitter. I have a course hashtag. So, for example, if my course number was ABC123, I would have a course hashtag for Twitter that was hashtag ABC123, where I might be talking with students and we might be sharing information about the course. And then I would have hashtag ABC123pop. And so that's where pop-up quest announcements would show up. So that's how I do it. But any way that you can communicate to them and have some sort of system in place so they know that they have the opportunity is fine. Now, how do you use them? Why do you want to use them? So I have found it's a great way to extend learning, right? Because I'm coming up with ideas in class based on what my students are doing or saying or, new resources that I'm discovering. And I want to give them those opportunities. So Pop-up Quest lets me do that. I always pitch it as extra credit, okay? That doesn't mean that students can just do pop-up quests and get an A in the class. That's not going to happen. And I'm going to link to a blog post in the show notes where I talk in more detail about how I think about pop-up quests. But pop-up quests could be used to sort of boost a grade a little bit, but they're not going to be enough in and of themselves to save a student that's not doing any work from the required activities. They can challenge students, right? Because you can push them to do things that they might not normally do. And if they aren't ready to be pushed, then again, it's not required, so don't do it. And of course, you can expose students to new ideas, right? Because things happen in the world, new resources, new information, new ideas come about. Pop-up quests are a great way to utilize that. Now, I've got some examples here. These are very basic examples, and I put in just some basic examples so you can see how easy this is to do. All right, but these are things that came from my class, a class that I taught recently. So I asked them to share a picture of something that they were doing that week that was related to the course, okay? Now, there's always a time limit on this. I didn't include that in here, but I always have a date where I say, right, this must be, tweeted out, tagged by this date and this time if you want credit for it. So it's not that I'm going to post something on the first day of class and you have all semester to complete the pop-up quest. I always put deadlines around these pop-up quests. You can do whatever you want. I had a Saturday challenge, all right, where I had found a blog post that I thought was really interesting that I wanted students to read. And I put the link out there and I said, go read this and leave a comment to the author, okay? And that's what you had to do to get points. You had to leave a comment on that blog post to get those points. And then I had a Sunday challenge. Because we had a class blog for this particular class, and I said, find somebody who wrote something, and not you can't be the author, and tweet it out, okay? And add some kind of an additional hashtag to it, right? And so the idea for the Sunday challenge was I wanted them to be on social media. I wanted them to be sharing each other's work and helping to build an audience for our class blog. I didn't want to be the only person doing that. So you can see here that you can do a variety of things here where I can have them trying to, share and publicize each other's work. I can have them showing things that they're doing related to the class, and I can have them reading interesting material that I have found, and they can get points for that. And if they're too busy, if they're sick, if they have an emergency, if they just don't want to do it, if they don't like it, they don't have to. Because again, they could get an A in the class without doing any of this stuff, okay? But it is an additional way, it is a way to bring in additional things. And the thing that is it's a pop-up quest, so you never really know when it's going to happen. Now, what I tell my students is, if we're going to have a pop-up quest, it's going to be posted by 9 a.m. that day, because I don't want them constantly checking Twitter, worrying about am I missing points? Should I be doing something? If it's Monday and it's 9:30 a.m. and you check the hashtag and there's nothing there, then there's nothing there, okay? You don't have to keep checking it anymore for all of Monday. All right, so please feel free to contact me. You can email me, leahhall39@gmail.com. Happy to answer questions that you have about teaching in higher education. And please check out my blog, leahhall.wordpress.com. It's called Teaching Academia. We talk about issues of teaching and learning in higher education. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you can get more updates like this.